The wallet I'd found on table 7 had seemed ordinary at first. Black leather, worn at the edges, stuffed with credit cards and a few crisp bills. But this card, tucked in a hidden sleeve behind the ID, made my stomach twist. I should have just called the number and been done with it. Instead, I stood there at 11:45 at night in an empty café in Itaewon, holding what felt increasingly like something I wasn't supposed to see. My shift had ended 20 minutes ago. I should have been on the subway home by now, collapsing into my tiny studio apartment and pretending my feet didn't hurt from 8 hours of carrying trays and forcing smiles at customers who barely looked at me. But here I was, alone, holding a stranger's wallet like it might explode. My phone sat on the counter beside me. The business card I'd found in the wallet lay next to it, expensive paper with a single name printed in both Korean and English. Ji-Hoon Kang. Below it a phone number. Nothing else. No company name. No title. Just a name that sounded important in a way I couldn't explain. The practical thing would be to leave it in the lost and found. Let my manager deal with it tomorrow. That's what I'd done with the 3 other wallets I'd found in my 8 months working here. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way the man at table 7 had sat. Perfectly still, reading a book in Korean. His coffee going cold because he never touched it. He'd stayed for 2 hours, never looking up, never checking his phone. When he finally left, he'd placed exact change on the table, bowed slightly to me even though I was just a waitress, and walked out into the Seoul night like he owned it. I'd found the wallet 5 minutes later, wedged between the seat cushion and the wall, like it had been placed there, hidden there. Just call him. Return the wallet. Go home. My fingers shook as I dialed. 3 rings. Maybe he wouldn't answer. Maybe I could just leave the wallet with my manager tomorrow and forget I ever saw that metal card or the man's too still way of sitting or the fact that his cash had been organized by denomination like someone who controlled everything down to the smallest detail. Yes. The voice that answered wasn't a greeting. It was a demand. Cold, clipped, with the kind of authority that made you want to apologize for breathing wrong. Hi, hello. I winced at how American I sounded, how uncertain. 8 months in Seoul, and I still couldn't shake the California Valley girl undertone when I got nervous. I'm calling about a wallet. You left it at Café Momo. I'm Emily, I work here, and I found it on one of the tables after closing. Silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. I could hear something in the background. Voices maybe. The low murmur of conversation, then nothing. Like he'd walked away from wherever he was to take this call in private. You opened it. His English was perfect, barely accented, but cold enough to frost the phone screen. It wasn't a question. Just to find a number to call, I said quickly, my heart picking up speed. I didn't take anything. Everything's here. I just wanted to return it to you. Everything. He repeated the word like he was testing it. Like he was weighing whether I was lying. The single word carried enough menace to make me check the cafe door, suddenly aware of how isolated I was. Describe everything. My mouth went dry. Credit cards. ID. And there's this metal card. I don't know what it is. Another pause. Longer this time. When he spoke again, something had shifted in his tone. Not warmer but more focused. Predatory, like a wolf that had just caught a scent. Where are you right now? At the cafe still. I'm closing up. Alone. The question made my skin prickle. I glanced at the front windows, at the street beyond. A few people walked by, normal night traffic in Itaewon. But suddenly everything felt threatening. My manager just left about 10 minutes ago, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Why? Stay there. Don't leave. I'm sending someone to collect it. His tone had changed again. Urgent now. Almost concerned, though that seemed impossible from a voice that cold. I can just drop it at a police station if that's easier, I offered, suddenly wanting nothing more than to get rid of this wallet and everything it represented. Or leave it with my manager tomorrow. No. The word cracked like a whip. Don't let it out of your sight. Don't let anyone else touch it. Do you understand? I don't understand any of this. You don't need to. A breath, like he was forcing himself to calm down. Just stay there. Keep the wallet with you. Someone will be there in 20 minutes. Wait, who are you? What's on that card that's so important? Hey there, my wonderful friend. How's your day going? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story so far. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. This one gets intense, I promise. For the first time, I heard something almost human in his voice. Something that might have been regret. If I told you that, Emily Carter, you'd run. And then I'd have to find you. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my reflection ghost pale in the black screen. My full name. I'd only given him my first name. Which meant he'd already looked me up in the 30 seconds we'd been talking. Already knew who I was, where I lived, probably everything about me. Every instinct screamed that I'd just made a terrible mistake. I looked at the wallet sitting innocently on the counter. At the metal card beside it, gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Whatever information it held, whatever secrets it contained, someone was coming for it. And I was alone in an empty café, holding something that clearly wasn't meant for civilian eyes. The smart thing would be to leave. Put the wallet on the counter, lock up, and get as far away as possible. But my hands wouldn't move. Because somewhere under the fear, under the certainty that I'd stumbled into something dangerous, was a whisper of curiosity. Who was Ji-Hoon Kang? And why did returning his wallet feel less like a good deed and more like stepping off a cliff? 20 minutes, he'd said. Check the time. 11:48. 19 minutes left to decide if I was brave or just catastrophically stupid. I made it to minute 17 before I broke. Not to run. To investigate. The metal card sat there, taunting me with its secrets. I picked it up again, held it to the light, turned it over. Nothing. No writing, no indication of what it might contain. For all I knew, it was a fancy hotel room key or some kind of high-tech business access card. Or it was something worth killing for. The thought came unbidden, and once it arrived, I couldn't shake it. I was sliding the card back into the wallet's hidden sleeve when the cafe door opened. The man who walked in didn't look like someone's assistant. He looked like the kind of person other people crossed the street to avoid. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark coat despite the spring warmth. His eyes swept the cafe with the efficiency of someone trained to catalog exits and threats in under 3 seconds. Those eyes landed on me, and I fought the urge to step back. Emily Carter. His Korean accent was thicker than the man on the phone, but his English was clear. That's me. I held up the wallet with a hand that trembled slightly. Everything's inside. You can check. He didn't take it. Instead, he pulled out his phone, typed something with thick fingers, and waited. His gaze never left me, and I had the uncomfortable sensation of being assessed, measured, catalogued as either a threat or irrelevant. I was betting on irrelevant and trying to be okay with that. 30 seconds of uncomfortable silence passed before the cafe door opened again. The man who entered this time moved differently, quieter, more controlled. He wore simple dark clothes, nothing flashy, but he carried himself like someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. His face was striking in a severe way, all sharp angles and hard edges, with eyes that seemed to see straight through me. This was Ji-Hoon Kang. I knew it in my bones before he spoke. He stopped 3 feet away, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. He studied me with an intensity that made me want to confess sins I hadn't committed. His gaze traveled from my face to the wallet in my hands to my face again, like he was solving an equation. You called me yourself. It wasn't a question, but I nodded anyway. My voice had apparently decided to take a vacation. Why not keep it? The cash alone was worth more than you make in a week here. The casual assessment stung. The fact that he'd already calculated my financial situation, already reduced me to a number, made something hot and defensive flare in my chest. Because it's not mine, I said, finding my voice. Came out steadier than I felt. I don't take things that don't belong to me. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or suspicion. Like honesty was a foreign language he didn't quite trust. He held out his hand and I placed the wallet in it, careful not to let our fingers touch. Even that proximity felt dangerous. He opened it methodically, checked each card with quick, efficient movements, counted the cash. Then his fingers slid into that hidden sleeve and pulled out the metal card. He held it up to the light, examined it, then looked at me. "You saw this." "I saw it," I admitted. "I don't know what it is." "But you were curious." "Of course I was curious." The words came out sharper than I intended. It's weird. But being curious isn't the same as being a thief or a blackmailer or whatever you're worried about. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile but something close. He said something in rapid Korean to the other man, who looked shocked, then concerned. An argument seemed to brew in quick, harsh syllables I couldn't follow. Ji-Hoon cut it off with a single word, sharp as a blade. The other man cast one last look at me, something between pity and warning, then left. The door chimed softly behind him, and suddenly I was alone with Ji-Hoon Kang. He slid the metal card back into the wallet, then tucked the whole thing into his jacket pocket. "You should be more careful." "Excuse me." "Calling strange numbers." "Staying late alone in empty cafes." "Seoul is safe but not for everyone." "I was just trying to do the right thing," I said, irritation overriding caution. "The right thing." He repeated my words slowly, like they were a puzzle he was trying to solve. His head tilted slightly. "When was the last time you ate?" The question was so unexpected, so jarringly normal, that I answered honestly. "Breakfast, I think. We were slammed during lunch and I never got a break." He pulled out his phone, typed something. "There's a restaurant 2 blocks east. They're expecting us." "Us?" And blinked. "I don't even know you. You know I pay my debts." He moved toward the door, then paused when I didn't follow. Those intense eyes fixed on me again. "You returned something valuable to me. Let me buy you dinner. Then we're even." Every reasonable part of my brain screamed no. This man was dangerous. Everything about him, from the cold authority in his voice to the way his associate had looked at me with pity, screamed danger. But I was exhausted, hungry, and desperately lonely in a way I hadn't admitted to myself in months. 8 months in Seoul, and I'd made exactly 0 friends. 8 months of serving coffee to people who barely saw me, of living in a country where I couldn't read half the signs or understand most conversations. 8 months of wondering if coming here had been the biggest mistake of my life. And here was someone actually seeing me, actually offering something, even if it was just dinner to settle a debt. "One dinner," I heard myself say. "Then we're even." That almost smile appeared again, and for just a second, he looked less like a threat and more like a person. "One dinner." I grabbed my jacket and bag, locked up the cafe with shaking hands, and followed Ji-Hoon Kang into the Seoul night. If I'd known then what that decision would cost me, I wonder if I still would have gone. I want to believe I would have run. But the truth is, I was already hooked. Already falling into orbit around something dark and gravitational that I didn't understand. Already lost. The restaurant was tucked down an alley I'd walked past 100 times without noticing. No sign outside, just a red door with a small window. But when Ji-Hoon opened it, warmth and the smell of grilled meat and garlic rushed out. The owner appeared immediately, an older woman who took one look at Ji-Hoon and bowed so low I thought she might tip over. She said something in rapid Korean, gesturing to a table in the back, her voice trembling slightly. "Not respect, fear." Ji-Hoon responded quietly, and whatever he said made her relax fractionally. She led us to a private corner, separated from the rest of the restaurant by a wooden screen, and disappeared. "She seems nervous," I said, settling into my seat. "She's not used to me bringing guests." He removed his jacket, and I caught a glimpse of something under his shirt. Dark lines. Tattoo maybe, though I couldn't make out the design. "Do you come here often?" "When I need to think. The food is good, and Mrs. Huang minds her own business." He slid a menu toward me. Order whatever you want. I studied the menu, grateful it had English translations, though half the dishes were things I'd never heard of. What do you recommend? Do you trust me? The question felt loaded. With food choices. Sure. Something that might have been amusement crossed his face. He called Mrs. Huang over and ordered in Korean, a long list I couldn't follow. When she left, his attention returned to me with that same unsettling intensity. Tell me about Emily Carter. Why Seoul? Why does anyone move halfway across the world? I fiddled with my napkin. I wanted an adventure. Something different from the life I was supposed to have. What life was that? Community college. Retail job. Apartment with 2 roommates. The same small town I grew up in. The words tasted bitter. Everyone told me I was crazy to leave. That I'd fail. That I wasn't brave enough for something like this. But you did it anyway. But I did it anyway, I echoed. Even though the teaching job fell through and I ended up slinging coffee instead of actually using my degree. Even though I'm lonely most of the time and I can barely communicate with half my neighbors. I did it. That takes courage. I laughed, sharp and humorless. Does it? Or is it just stubborn stupidity? Often the same thing. He leaned back as Mrs. Huang arrived with small dishes, banchan, arranged with careful precision. Courage is just fear that keeps moving forward. That sounds like experience talking. His eyes met mine and for a moment I saw something raw there. Something that matched the lonely ache in my own chest. I know what it's like to be trapped in a life someone else designed for you. To want something different but not know how to reach for it. But you run businesses, right? You have power, money, freedom. Do I? The question was soft, almost to himself. Or am I just playing the role I inherited, following the script written before I was born? Before I could respond, food arrived. Platters of grilled meat, steaming stews, rice and vegetables I didn't recognize. Mrs. Huang fussed over the table, showing me how to wrap the meat in lettuce leaves, but her hands shook the whole time. When she left, I took a bite and nearly moaned. After 16 hours on nothing but coffee, it tasted like salvation. Good? Ji-Hoon asked, and this time he definitely smiled. Incredible. I took another bite, then gestured at him with my chopsticks. Your turn. Tell me about Ji-Hoon Kang. The smile faded. I'm not a good man, Emily. I didn't ask if you were good. I asked who you are. He studied me for a long moment like he was deciding something. My father built an empire. When he died, I inherited it. All of it. The businesses, the responsibilities, the enemies. Enemies. Men who want what I have. Who think they can take it. His fingers drummed once on the table. The only sign of tension. The wallet you found, the metal card inside, it contains information about those businesses. Information that could destroy everything if it fell into the wrong hands. My stomach dropped. And I had it. For almost an hour. Yes. You must have been terrified I'd copied it or sold it or... I was curious, he interrupted. I've had that wallet stolen twice before. Both times, the thief tried to blackmail me within hours. But you... He shook his head slowly. You just called to return it. Like it was a lost dog instead of a weapon. I didn't know it was a weapon. No, you didn't. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. That's what makes you dangerous, Emily Carter. Your honesty, your goodness. In my world, those things don't exist. They're not supposed to exist. Everyone's good at something, I said, trying to lighten the mood. Mine just happens to be accidentally stumbling into complicated situations. Is that what this is? A complicated situation. Our eyes locked, and the air between us changed. Charged. Electric. I don't know what this is, I admitted quietly. But I know I should probably be running away from you as fast as possible. Yes, you should. Are you going to tell me why? His phone buzzed. Once. 3 times in rapid succession. His expression hardened as he checked it, reading messages that made his jaw clench. "We need to leave. Now." He stood abruptly, threw cash on the table, more than the meal could possibly cost. "What's wrong?" "Someone knows you returned my wallet. Someone who wants that information." He grabbed my arm, not rough but urgent. "And they're coming here. How would they even know?" The restaurant's front window exploded. Glass showered everywhere. Someone screamed. Ji-Hoon threw his body over mine, driving us both to the floor as something whistled overhead and embedded in the wooden screen behind us. A knife, buried to the hilt in the wood where my head had been. "Stay down," Ji-Hoon hissed. He pulled a gun from somewhere under his shirt, and my brain struggled to process that this was real, this was actually happening. More crashes from the front. Shouting in Korean. Mrs. Hwang crying. Ji-Hoon dragged me toward the back, through the kitchen where terrified cooks pressed themselves against the walls. There was a door, an alley, and then we were running. Behind us, men poured out of the restaurant. Ahead, the alley split in 3 directions. Ji-Hoon pulled me left, then right, through a maze of backstreets I'd never navigated. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. But his hand stayed locked around mine, pulling me forward. We burst onto a main street, and he shoved me into a waiting car. Black, expensive, with tinted windows. He barked orders in Korean to the driver, and we peeled away from the curb. I pressed against the seat, gasping, my whole body shaking. What the hell was that? Managed. Ji-Hoon's face was grim in the passing streetlights. "That was my world trying to kill you because you were kind to me." He turned to look at me, and I saw something in his expression that terrified me more than the knife or the chase. Guilt. And determination. "I'm sorry, Emily. But you're in this now. And the only way to keep you alive is to keep you close." The car took us to a building in Gangnam, all glass and steel and the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Ji-Hoon's hand stayed on the small of my back as we rode the elevator to the top floor, a touch that was both protective and possessive. His apartment was exactly what I expected and nothing like it at the same time. Sleek, modern, expensive, but empty in a way that made it feel like a hotel room. No photos, no personal touches, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. "You'll stay here tonight," Ji-Hoon said, locking 3 separate deadbolts on the door. "It's secure. No one knows about this place. I need to go home. Get my things. My passport. Already being handled." He pulled out his phone, sent a text. "My people will bring everything you need." "Your people?" I laughed, high and slightly hysterical. An hour ago, I was closing up a café. Now I'm in a stranger's apartment because someone threw a knife at my head. This is insane. "I know." He moved to the windows, checked the street below. "I'm sorry you were pulled into this. Who were those men? Why do they want to kill me?" He turned, and in the soft apartment lighting, he looked tired. Older than I'd first thought. "Do you know what the Korean mob is, Emily?" My stomach dropped. "Like the Yakuza. Organized crime. Similar. Here we call it Japuk. Different organizations controlling different territories, different businesses." He moved to a cabinet, poured 2 glasses of something amber, offered me one. "My father ran one of the largest syndicates in Seoul. When he died 5 years ago, I took over." I took the glass with numb fingers. "You're a gangster." "I'm a businessman who operates outside the law," he corrected, but there was no humor in it. "The metal card you found contains financial records. Money laundering, illegal operations, political bribes. Everything that keeps my organization running. And someone wants it. Taemin Vega. He runs a rival syndicate." Ji-Hoon drank his whiskey in one swallow. "We've had an uneasy peace for 3 years. But he's been testing boundaries, pushing into my territory. If he gets that data, he can expose me to the authorities or use it for blackmail. Either way, I lose everything. But I don't have it. You do." "He doesn't know that." Ji-Hoon's eyes met mine. "One of my men saw you with the wallet. He's working for Taemin now, feeding him information." He told Taemin that you found it, that you looked at the card, that I met with you personally. So Taemin thinks I made a copy. Yes. I sank onto the leather couch, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. How do we convince him I didn't? We don't. We use his assumption against him. Ji-Hoon sat beside me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something dark and woodsy. If he thinks you have the information, he'll come for you. And when he does, we'll be ready. You want to use me as bait. I want to keep you alive, he said quietly. And the only way to do that is to end this threat permanently. I should have been terrified. Should have demanded he take me to the police or the American embassy or anywhere far away from knives and gangsters and men who killed for information. But I looked at Ji-Hoon, really looked at him, and saw something I recognized. Loneliness. The bone-deep exhaustion of carrying weight no one else could see. Tell me the plan, I said. Relief flickered across his face. Tomorrow you go back to work. Normal. My people will be watching but hidden. When Taemin makes his move, we'll be ready. And if something goes wrong, it won't. But his jaw was tight when he said it. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what we were planning settling over us. Why did you really leave the wallet? Asked suddenly. Was it a test? To see if I was trustworthy. He was quiet so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father used to say that you could tell everything about a person by what they do when no one's watching. When they think there are no consequences. He turned to look at me. I wanted to know what kind of person worked at that café. The pretty American girl with sad eyes who always smiled even when she thought no one was looking. You noticed me before. I've been coming to that café for 2 months, Emily. Always sitting at table 7. Always ordering the same thing. A ghost of a smile. You never once recognized me. Should I have? Most people in Seoul would. My face has been in the papers. Society pages, business sections. I shrugged. But you just saw another customer. Treated me like I was normal. Do you know how rare that is? So you tested me. I wanted to see if your kindness was real or just good customer service. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was gentle, almost reverent. Turns out it's real. You're real. And that's infinitely more dangerous than any rival syndicate. My breath caught. Dangerous how? Because it makes me want things I can't have. Makes me imagine a different life. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing my skin. Makes me willing to burn down my entire world to keep you safe. You don't even know me. Don't I? His eyes searched mine. You're brave enough to move across the world alone but insecure enough to think it might be stupidity instead of courage. You notice when people are scared and try to make them comfortable. You work a job you're overqualified for without complaint because you're too proud to go home and admit defeat. You eat breakfast for dinner and pretend you're fine when you're drowning in loneliness. Each observation hit like an arrow, perfectly aimed. How do you? Because I see you, Emily Carter. The same way you see me. Not the scary reputation or the dangerous business. Just a person trying to survive in a world that doesn't quite fit right. The space between us evaporated. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly his mouth was on mine, desperate and searching. I kissed him back with 8 months of loneliness and fear and the reckless need to feel something, anything, other than invisible. We broke apart gasping. This is a terrible idea, I whispered against his lips. The worst, he agreed and kissed me again. We moved to his bedroom in a tangle of hands and shed clothes, and the kind of urgency that comes from knowing the world might end tomorrow. He was gentle and fierce all at once, and when he whispered my name like a prayer, I felt something crack open in my chest. Afterwards, lying in his arms with the Seoul skyline glittering beyond the windows, I should have felt safe. Instead I felt the clock ticking down. Ji-Hoon. After this is over, after we deal with Taemin, what happens to us? His arms tightened around me. I don't know. But I know I'm not letting you go. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that a gangster and a café waitress could somehow build something real out of danger and desire. But in the morning everything changed. I woke to voices in the other room. Angry voices speaking rapid Korean. I pulled on Ji-Hoon's shirt and crept to the door. Ji-Hoon stood in the living room with 3 men, all arguing. One of them I recognized from the café. The tall one who'd come to collect the wallet. "She's a liability," the man was saying in Korean, not knowing I could understand enough to catch the meaning. Taemin already made his move. He knows where she lives, where she works. Keeping her close puts us all at risk. "I'll handle it," Ji-Hoon said coldly. "How?" "By playing house with some American girl who stumbled into the wrong place." Another man shook his head. "Boss, think clearly. Your father would never have." "My father is dead." Ji-Hoon's voice could have cut glass. "I make the decisions now. Then decide if she's worth a war. Because that's what this is becoming." Silence fell. Through the crack in the door, I watched Ji-Hoon's face. Watched him weigh my life against his empire. "Set up the meet with Taemin," he finally said. "Tomorrow night. Neutral ground. Tell him I'm willing to negotiate." "Boss." "Do it." The men left, and I slipped back into bed, pretending to be asleep when Ji-Hoon returned. He slid in beside me, pulled me close, and I felt the tension radiating from his body. "I know you're awake," he murmured. "I heard. How much did you understand?" "Enough to know your people think I'm not worth the trouble." His grip tightened. "They're wrong." "Are they?" I turned to face him. "Maybe they're right. Maybe the smart thing is for me to disappear. Leave Seoul. Let you handle your business without worrying about collateral damage. Is that what you want?" "No." The truth came out small but certain. "But what I want doesn't matter if it gets you killed. Let me worry about that." He kissed my forehead. "Just trust me. Can you do that?" I nodded against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. But trust was about to become a luxury neither of us could afford. The next day passed in agonizing slowness. I went to work like Ji-Hoon instructed, smiled at customers, poured coffee with shaking hands. His people were everywhere. The businessman at table 3. The woman with the laptop by the window. The delivery driver who came twice with packages for the restaurant next door. All watching. All waiting. Mina cornered me during the afternoon lull. "You look terrible," she said bluntly. "What happened? Is it that guy? The one who keeps coming in?" "It's complicated. Emily." She grabbed my wrist. "I told you to be careful. People are talking about him. Scary things. If you're in trouble." "I'm fine," I lied. "Really? Just didn't sleep well." She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. But she let it go and I was grateful. Ji-Hoon came in at closing time just like always. But tonight there was something different in his eyes. Something final. "It's tonight," he said quietly as I wiped down his table. Taemin agreed to meet. Neutral ground, just him and me to negotiate terms. "Where?" "An old warehouse by the port. Abandoned, easy to secure." He caught my hand. "You'll stay here. My best people will guard you. By midnight, this will all be over." "Let me come with you." "Absolutely not." "Ji-Hoon, if he thinks I have the information, shouldn't I be there? To prove I don't." "It's too dangerous. And sitting here waiting is safe." I leaned close, lowering my voice. "Let me help end this. Please." He studied my face for a long moment. Then, against every instinct he clearly had, he nodded. "You stay in the car. You don't get out no matter what happens. Understood?" "Understood." 'Twas a lie. We both knew it. But he accepted it anyway because the alternative was leaving me behind, and neither of us could stand that. The warehouse loomed against the night sky like a rotting tooth. We arrived just before 11. 3 cars full of Ji-Hoon's men creating a protective convoy. The area was deserted, just empty concrete and the smell of salt water and rust. "Stay here," Ji-Hoon said, cupping my face. "No matter what you see or hear. Promise me. I promise. Another lie that tasted like ash. He kissed me, hard and desperate, then stepped out into the night. I watched through the tinted window as he walked toward the warehouse entrance. Taemin was already there, flanked by his own men. Even from a distance, I could see the resemblance between the two crime lords. Both young, both carrying themselves with that same lethal confidence. They talked. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. Aggressive. Ji-Hoon gestured once, sharp and angry. Taemin laughed. Then Taemin pulled out his phone, showed Ji-Hoon something on the screen. I watched Ji-Hoon's entire body go rigid. Taemin was still smiling when the warehouse behind them exploded. The blast wave rocked the car. Fire erupted into the night sky, debris raining down. I screamed Ji-Hoon's name, but the sound was swallowed by the roar of flames and collapsing metal. When the smoke cleared enough to see, both groups were in chaos. Men on the ground, others running. And in the center of it all, Ji-Hoon on his knees, staring at something I couldn't see. I threw open the car door. "Miss Carter, no." The guard tried to grab me, but I was already running. I reached Ji-Hoon's side just as I realized what he was staring at. Who he was staring at. Body. Burned, broken, but still recognizable. Mrs. Huang from the restaurant. The kind woman who'd served us dinner and showed me how to wrap meat in lettuce leaves. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." Ji-Hoon's hands were shaking. He killed her. Put her in the warehouse and blew it up to prove a point. Taemin stood 20 feet away, his men forming a protective circle. He was still smiling. "That's the price, Kang," he called out in English, clearly for my benefit. "That's what happens when you value American whores over business. Everyone around you dies." Ji-Hoon stood slowly, and I saw murder in his eyes. "This wasn't about territory," he said, his voice dead. "This was never about the data or my businesses." "No," Taemin agreed. "This was about showing Seoul that the great Kang Ji-Hoon has gone soft. That he'd risk everything, burn everything for some girl he barely knows." He gestured at me. "How many more people will die for her, I wonder? How many loyal soldiers? How many innocent bystanders? You want a war, Taemin. You'll get one. I already have one. And I'm winning." Taemin's smile widened. "But I'm feeling generous tonight. Give me the girl, and I'll let your organization survive. Keep her, and I'll burn it all down. Everyone you've ever known, everyone who's ever worked for you. All dead. Because you couldn't let go of one insignificant woman." The words hit like physical blows. I looked at the shell of the warehouse, at Mrs. Huang's body, at the destruction wrought because I'd returned a wallet. Because I'd been kind when I should have been cautious. "Ji-Hoon," I said quietly. "Maybe he's right. Don't." His voice cracked. "Don't do this. Mrs. Huang is dead because of me. How many more people have to die?" Tears streamed down my face. "I'm not worth this. I'm not worth any of this. You are to me." "Then you're wrong." I stepped away from him toward Taemin. "I'll go with you. Just stop killing people. Please." Taemin's expression shifted to something like triumph. "Smart girl." Ji-Hoon grabbed my arm. "Emily, no. You don't know what he'll do to you. I know what he'll do if I stay. More of this. More bodies. More blood on both our hands." I pulled free, even though it felt like tearing off my own skin. "Let me go." "I can't. You have to." I touched his face one last time, memorizing the feel of him. "Be the leader your people need. Protect your organization. And forget about me." I walked toward Taemin before I could lose my nerve. Before the look of devastation on Ji-Hoon's face could break my resolve. Taemin's men surrounded me immediately. One of them grabbed my arms, zip-tied my wrists behind my back. "A pleasure doing business," Taemin called to Ji-Hoon. "Don't worry. I'll take good care of her." They dragged me toward a black van. I looked back once and saw Ji-Hoon still standing there, surrounded by his men, watching me disappear. He wasn't moving. Wasn't fighting. Just standing there like something vital had been ripped out of him. The van door slammed shut, and darkness swallowed me whole. I'd saved him. Saved his organization. Saved countless lives by sacrificing myself. So why did it feel like I just made the worst mistake of my life? The van door slammed shut, and darkness swallowed me whole. I'd saved him. Saved his organization. Saved countless lives by sacrificing myself. So why did it feel like I just made the worst mistake of my life? The van drove for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. When the door opened again, I was pulled into another warehouse, this one intact and clearly in use. Shipping containers lined the walls. Men moved with purpose, loading crates, counting inventory. This was Taemin's operation. The heart of his empire. They shoved me into a small room, cut the zip ties and locked the door. The space was empty except for a metal chair and a single bare bulb. I sank to the floor and let myself cry. For Mrs. Huang. For Ji-Hoon. For the brief, beautiful moment when I'd thought I could have something real in this city. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. Time meant nothing in that room. When the door finally opened, Taemin walked in alone. "You know, I actually respect you," he said, leaning against the wall. "Sacrificing yourself to save him. Very noble. Very stupid. You said you'd leave his organization alone." I lied. He smiled at my expression. "Did you really think I'd honor a deal with someone who has no power? I wanted you because you're leverage. And tomorrow, when I call Kang and tell him I'm going to kill you unless he surrenders everything, he'll have a choice. His empire or your life. He'll choose the empire. Will he?" Taemin crouched in front of me. "I've known Ji-Hoon since we were teenagers. I've never seen him care about anything except the business his father left him. But you he cares about. You're his weakness. And weaknesses are meant to be exploited. You're going to kill me either way, aren't you?" "Probably," he admitted. "But not yet. First you're going to call him. Tell him you're safe. That I'm treating you well. Give him hope." He pulled out a phone. "Make it convincing or I start mailing him pieces of you." My hands shook as I took the phone. He dialed, put it on speaker. Ji-Hoon answered before the first ring finished. "Emily." Just my name, but it held everything. Relief. Fear. Desperation. "I'm okay," I said, my voice cracking. "He hasn't hurt me. I'm coming for you. I'm going to get you back." "No." Closed my eyes. "Ji-Hoon, listen to me. You need to let me go. Protect your people. Build the life you deserve. And forget I ever existed." "Emily. I love you," I whispered. "And that's why I'm asking you to walk away." Taemin ended the call, looking pleased. "Perfect. Now he'll be completely irrational. Easier to manipulate." He left me alone in the dark, and I pressed my face to my knees. I told Ji-Hoon I loved him. The truest thing I'd ever said, spoken as a goodbye. And somewhere across Seoul, I knew he was planning something reckless. Something that would probably get him killed. All because I'd returned a wallet and fallen for a man I was never supposed to meet. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. I sat in that dark room running through every choice that had led me here, trying to find the moment where everything went wrong. But there wasn't one. Every decision, from answering the phone to getting in Ji-Hoon's car to walking into Taemin's hands, had felt inevitable. Like I'd been moving toward this moment since the second I picked up that wallet. Dawn light was creeping under the door when I heard it. Gunfire. Distant at first, then closer. Shouting in Korean. The sound of running feet. The door burst open, and one of Taemin's men grabbed me, hauled me to my feet. "Move!" He dragged me through the warehouse. Chaos everywhere. Men running, grabbing weapons, taking defensive positions. Through the high windows I caught glimpses of vehicles outside. Black SUVs. Hoon's cars. He'd come anyway. Despite everything I'd said, every plea to walk away. Of course he had. My guard shoved me toward the center of the warehouse, where Taemin stood coordinating his defense. When he saw me, his expression hardened. Bring her here, he ordered. They pushed me forward, and Taemin grabbed my arm, pressing a gun to my ribs. Seems your boyfriend is more foolish than I thought. Attacking my stronghold with 20 men against 50. Let me talk to him. I can make him leave. Too late for that. He dragged me toward the main entrance as his men took up positions. He wants a war. He'll get one. The warehouse doors exploded inward. Ji-Hoon's men poured through the opening, a coordinated assault that spoke of military precision. But Taemin was ready. His people opened fire, and the warehouse became a killing floor. I screamed Ji-Hoon's name, but the sound was swallowed by gunfire. Through the smoke and chaos I saw him, moving like death itself, a gun in each hand. His face a mask of cold fury. He was magnificent and terrifying, and I knew with absolute certainty that he would die here. For me. Because I'd been too weak to stay away, too selfish to let him go. Kang! Taemin's shout cut through the noise. The firing stopped, both sides waiting. I have your girl. Ji-Hoon froze, his eyes finding me across the warehouse. The devastation in his expression broke something in my chest. Let her go, Taemin. This is between us. Everything is between us now. Taemin's gun pressed harder into my side. Drop your weapons. All of them. Or I put a bullet in her right now. I watched Ji-Hoon's internal war play out on his face. The leader who never surrendered versus the man who loved me. Love one. He dropped his guns. Raised his hands. Let her go. Take me instead. Why would I do that when I can have both? Taemin laughed. On your knees, Kang. Let everyone see the great crime lord begging. Ji-Hoon's eyes locked on mine as he lowered himself to his knees. In them I saw an apology and a promise. Please, he said, his voice raw. Please, Taemin. She's innocent. She's not part of this world. Just let her go. Innocent. Taemin's breath was hot against my ear. She stopped being innocent the moment she touched your wallet. The moment she caught your attention. She's just as guilty as you are. His finger moved toward the trigger. Everything happened in slow motion. I remembered my self-defense instructor back in California. If someone has a gun on you, they expect you to freeze. Don't freeze. Move. I drove my elbow back into Taemin's ribs with every ounce of strength I had. His gun discharged, the bullet going wide, and I twisted out of his grip. Emily, down. Ji-Hoon's voice. I dropped as gunfire erupted again. Ji-Hoon rolled, grabbed a discarded weapon, and came up shooting. His men advanced with renewed fury. Taemin grabbed for me, but I kicked at his knee. He stumbled, and then Ji-Hoon was there, putting himself between us. Get behind me, Ji-Hoon ordered, and I scrambled to obey. The battle was brutal and fast. Ji-Hoon's people, outnumbered but better trained, pushed forward. Taemin's men broke, retreating deeper into the warehouse. Taemin himself backed toward a side exit, his gun sweeping between Ji-Hoon and me. This isn't over, Kang. You can't protect her forever. Eventually she'll be alone, and when she is, Ji-Hoon shot him. Not to kill. The bullet took Taemin in the shoulder, spinning him around. He dropped his gun, clutching the wound. It's over, Ji-Hoon said coldly. He moved forward, picked up Taemin's weapon, and stood over him. You murdered an innocent woman. You threatened war. You tried to kill the only thing in this world I actually care about. He raised the gun, aimed at Taemin's head. Ji-Hoon. I stepped forward, put my hand on his arm. Don't. He'll come after you again. Maybe. But if you execute him like this, you become exactly what everyone says you are. A monster. I met his eyes. You told me you wanted a different life. This isn't how you start one. For an endless moment, I thought he'd pull the trigger anyway. Then he lowered the gun. Take him, he told his men. Keep him alive. We'll use him to negotiate a lasting peace with his organization. They get him back, we get territory concessions and a guarantee of no retaliation. His second-in-command looked shocked but nodded. They moved to secure Taemin and the other survivors. Ji-Hoon turned to me, his hands shaking as they cupped my face. "You're bleeding. So are you." We stood there in the aftermath, both of us trembling. The warehouse floor was littered with debris and shell casings and the evidence of just how close we'd both come to dying. "I told you to stay in the car," he said, but there was no anger in it. "I'm not very good at following orders. I noticed." He pressed his forehead to mine. "When I saw him holding that gun on you, His voice broke. "I would have given him everything, Emily. The whole empire. Every business, every asset. All of it for you. I know. That's why I had to do something." I pulled back to look at him. "We can't keep living like this. Always looking over our shoulders. Always waiting for the next threat." "I know." He took a shuddering breath. "I'm done. With all of it. The organization, the violence, the life my father chose for me. I'm walking away. Can you just walk away? I have enough leverage to negotiate my exit. It'll take time. A few months to transfer power. Ensure no one comes after me." His thumb brushed my cheek. "Will you wait for me? Will you trust that I can actually do this?" I thought about everything that had happened. The terror and the violence and the impossible choices. I should run. Should get as far from this man and his dangerous world as possible. But when I looked at him, I didn't see a crime lord or a killer. I saw someone who'd knelt in the dirt and begged for my life. Who'd been willing to sacrifice everything he'd built for a chance at something real. I saw someone worth waiting for. "I'll wait," I whispered. "But you have to promise me something. Anything. No more tests. No more secrets. If we're doing this, we do it honestly. Completely. I promise." He kissed me, soft and reverent, like I was something precious he'd almost lost. "I'm going to build a life worthy of you, Emily Carter. A boring, normal, safe life where the most dangerous thing we do is decide what to have for dinner." That sounds perfect. The next 4 months were the hardest and longest of my life. Ji-Hoon worked constantly, negotiating his exit, transferring power, ensuring that no loose ends would come back to haunt us. I stayed in Seoul, protected by guards I pretended not to notice, working at the café and trying to build something resembling a normal routine. We saw each other when we could. Stolen hours that felt like oxygen. And slowly, piece by piece, I watched him dismantle everything his father had built. Watched him choose freedom over power. Choose me over fear. 3 months after the warehouse, Taemin's organization accepted Ji-Hoon's terms. Peace treaty signed. Territory divided. Taemin himself was released. His shoulder healed but his pride shattered. 1 month after that, Ji-Hoon walked away from it all. The day he became officially free, we met at Café Momo. He sat at table 7, ordered an Americano, and waited for my shift to end. "So," I said, sliding into the seat across from him, "you're officially a civilian now. Officially unemployed and completely ordinary." His smile was different now. Lighter. Younger. "I have no idea what to do with myself. I might have some ideas." Pulled out a brochure. "There's a program for teaching business ethics at the university. They're looking for someone with real-world experience." He took it, studied the information. "You think they'd hire someone with my background? I think you'd be perfect. You know exactly what happens when ethics go wrong." He reached across the table, took my hand. "I bought a place. Outside the city. Small house with a garden. Nothing fancy. Just somewhere we can be normal people living a normal life. I'm hoping." His eyes searched mine. "Move in with me, Emily. Let's build that boring, safe life together." I thought about my tiny studio apartment. My lonely existence. 8 months in Seoul trying to prove I was brave enough to be here. Turns out I'd been brave enough all along. Brave enough to return a wallet. Brave enough to fall in love with a dangerous man. Brave enough to believe he could change. "Yes," I said simply. We left the café together as the sun set over Seoul. No guards, no enemies, no secrets. Just two people who'd found each other in the most impossible way and decided that what they had was worth fighting for. 6 months later, on a quiet morning in our small house, I found a black leather wallet on the kitchen counter. My heart stopped for just a second before I opened it. Inside was a small velvet box. Ji-Hoon appeared behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. I figured I owed you a wallet story with a better ending. The ring was simple and perfect. I turned in his arms, laughing through tears. "Emily Carter, will you marry me?" he asked. "Will you keep returning my lost things for the rest of our lives? Only if you promise to stop losing them." I promised to only lose my heart. He slipped the ring on my finger. "And only to you." We married in a small ceremony. My family flew in from California. Mina from the café cried through the whole thing. We honeymooned in places where no one knew our story, where we were just another couple in love. And sometimes, late at night, Ji-Hoon pulls me close and whispers that finding me was the luckiest accident of his life. I remind him it wasn't an accident. It was a test neither of us knew we were taking. And somehow, impossibly, we both passed. Years later, when people ask how we met, I tell them the truth. I found his wallet and called to return it. He tested my honesty and found something he wasn't looking for. Love that chose kindness over power. Trust over fear. A future over a past neither of us could change. All because a waitress did the right thing and called a stranger to return what he'd lost. She never knew she was being tested. She only knew she was being honest. And that honesty changed everything. Thank you so much for joining Emily and Ji-Hoon on this journey. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What was your favorite moment? Did the ending satisfy you? Let me know where you're watching from, and what story you'd like to hear next. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more emotional stories that will keep you hooked from beginning to end. See you in the next one, my wonderful friend.